Calling for the big bad, very bad, big bad wolf. They didn't give 3 figs. Number 1 was very gay, and he built his house with hay. With the hey, hey toot, he blew on his flute, and he played around all day. Number 2 was fond of jigs, and so he built his house of twigs. Hi diddle diddle, he played on his fiddle as he danced with the lady pigs. Number 3 said nix on tricks, I will build my house with bricks. He had no chance to sing and dance, 'cause work and play don't mix. Ah, ha, 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 two little pigs just winked and laughed, ha, ha. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf? Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Tra-la-la-la-la. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf? Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Tra-la-la-la-la. Three blind mice, see how they...
All right, how's it going, everybody? We are just about to start this podcast. Are you ready, Z? Oh, yes, there it is. Boom. How's it going? How's it going out there, everybody? Are you ready to clap, Z? Okay, in 3, 2, 1, boom. Hello, everyone. We are the Puppet Parent Podcast. That's right. My name is Chad.
My name is Z. Hi.
That's right. We are puppeteers. We're parents. And we podcasting. That's right. Coming at you from the amazing residency space from the Springville Center for the Arts, way out here in Western New York, where who knew there was Black Lives Matter protests today, every single week. That's moving forward, and we had puppet shows, and we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff, including where we're at, like our kids are at, and stuff like that. So stick around. There's plenty to talk about. Z, you want to talk about Chippy Chip?
Okay. So we started a garden when we first got here. I was really excited about having space. That was one of the reasons that we came out here for the summer, was to give the kids space and also to give us some space. And I thought, well, you know, I've always wanted to have a vegetable garden. Let's go for it. So we planted, it's not huge, just a few things in a gated area that they already had, but definitely we had some visitors who were snacking, and I was feeding the whole forest all of a sudden.
Yeah, you were like a Disney princess. They set up the wildlife camera that has a motion sensor, so anytime something moves nearby, no matter how big or how small, it will take a picture.
Yes.
And so what were the list of animals that you were feeding your little buffet that you bequeathed to the neighborhood of animals?
Well, there was a lot of bunnies. And then chipmunks, that's why, and we'll get to that in a second. And then squirrels. And there was also a deer. We think it was a deer. It was big. It was on the other side of the fence. It never came in. But the bunnies were the main culprits of the chomping away.
Yeah. So they took like the first night you said they took your entire eggplant.
Yeah, decimated.
Just gone.
Like, I mean, these are sprouts. Like, I bought like plants that had already sprouted. So I don't know what you call those, but that's what they were. And I put them in the ground, and then they were suddenly not there. Like, no sign of them. Like, eaten, nothing.
Yeah.
And peas, they ate all of the peas.
Mm-hmm.
So no peas this year.
Yeah, so actually they're kind of like, they have similar tastes to you, because you're always good for an eggplant parm,
Yes.
right? And like peas, give peas a chance.
I like peas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have similar tastes. It's true. But then I mean, this is more your story than my story about the chipmunk.
we told Grandpa, because we're living with my parents right now, to ride out the virus throughout the summer, because New York City is extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
But out in the country, you get some breeze. You could walk outside, no consequences whatsoever, if you have a place. So I told Grandpa, and he's like, oh yeah, here we go. Because I said, oh, why don't they have feral cats around. Why don't we put a can of cat food out so that a predator would come around, so that would discourage all the bunnies and stuff from coming around, because we saw these baby robins hatching and then growing and falling out of their nest, which is apparently something that baby robins just do.
Yes.
And then the parents, the father robin, will like look after them and like move with them into like to keep them safe. And dive bomb creatures that are like like full like dad robin mode or something.
It's just like nature all the time out here.
Yeah.
It's great. We love it.
So he was like, really? And he took whatever he could in his own, like, he's like the DIY king, where he'd just take whatever he got, and he has a lot of stuff. So he took a screen door and like,
We had some extra hog wire trellis.
Hog wire trellis.
Yeah.
That's amazing sounding. Sounds like a fantasy name.
It's like this thick fencing that they were using on their deck, but they had some extra, so we had that.
That could be the hero name in like a fantasy book.
It's probably not called trellis, but I'm using it as trellis for the pickles. So it actually worked out very well. And then what are you?
And he also put out a live trap, because I found a live trap in their basement.
Like a have a heart trap.
And it's
a
small.
kind trap.
Yeah, glue traps are evil. Never use a glue trap. And snap traps will sometimes kill instantly, but not always.
We didn't want to hurt anybody.
No. We just, so I have a heart trap, a live trap.
It's small.
It's small. It has like a little bit of bait. You put like a little food on this little metal plate in the middle that's precariously placed. And as soon as you touch the plate, the sides of it go boop and traps whatever's in there inside. And then you find them in the morning. So we go out each morning.
This was Chad and Grandpa's idea to do that.
Well, he did it all by himself. I just I just kind of planted the seed.
I was like, I mean, we'll feed the forest a little. It's all right. And all the boys were like, no, we will protect your garden. Chivalry.
Yeah,
so
Red Wall. Yeah, which our oldest has been reading. The other day, I was like, he was like, I need a chapter book. And I'm like, well, we have this, and just dumped Red Wall. And he's like, no, I tried to read that when I was younger, and I couldn't get through the first page.
Sharon wants to know when the puppet show is starting. Sharon, this is our podcast, our weekly podcast, but we have a free 11 a.m. puppet show on Fridays, every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So tune in then, and you can see our puppet shows.
Yes.
But on Sundays, we do this podcast, which lets people know how we're doing. The people behind the puppets.
Yeah, that's true. And normally we had been doing this at 9 o'clock every single week. This is our 13th week in a row doing this podcast. When we were back in Astoria in Queens, we would record at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday, and then we would just roll into bed because the podcast equipment is right next to our bed. It was nice and easy. Out here, it's like we have to drive from a place 10 minutes to get into a darkened village to go into the basement to set up the studio. And then after the podcast, it's 10 o'clock or later, and then we have to drive home. And everything about that is just like more trouble and tiredness. And you don't want to drive when you're tired. So we decided to change it up.
3 p.m. Sundays. Let us know what you think, you guys.
Yeah.
3 p.m. Sundays?
Yeah. Next week, I have a show at 3 o'clock.
Oh, well, I guess we're not doing it every week at 3 p.m.
Well, no, we decided 3 p.m. because 1 o'clock for at least 2 weeks in a row on Sundays. There have been Black Lives Matter protests, and we've been involved, and we want to keep being involved. So that's enough buffer time.
Which is why I'm still wearing my shirt.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's enough buffer time to where we can, after like an hour or whatever of protesting, take the kids home and then come back here and set everything up. 3 o'clock. That's what we did today. Next week, I don't know. We'll either do it earlier or later, one of the two. We'll find out.
I'll let you know.
So we
have a heart
set
trap.
out the live traps.
Okay.
We set out the live traps, and I didn't know they were small. They were too small for a bunny. A bunny's not going to crawl into there. They were only good for squirrels or chipmunks, which we'd said both of those had come.
Yes.
So one morning, went out there, picked up the trap, and inside was a little chipmunk, an adult chipmunk.
It was so cute.
Yeah, and it was a little freaked out, but also, it was. I think it had nibbled on the bread a little bit.
It was adorable.
The whole point of the live trap is to trap the animal and then get it out of your place, to discourage the animal and others from coming back, but not to hurt it in any way. So I came and brought it and showed the boys.
They've never seen a chipmunk up close before. I mean, come on, city kids.
I mean, I haven't either, quite honestly. I mean, our friends over in Northern Ireland, and guess what? It's legal to have chipmunks as pets in other countries, guys. Yeah, our friends, the Donalds, had chipmunks as pets. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible because it's like a wild animal.
Yeah.
It'd be like having a squirrel or something as a pet. And they're like, and it's just like a hamster in any other country.
Right.
It's like, chipmunk, whatever. And we're like, no, God, this is so special. So yeah, we brought it in, we looked at it, did a little video for Facebook, just whatever. I brought it out, released it in a different part of the woods, and that was it. And as soon as I opened up the gates, it was like, pew, straight out of there. It's like your science lesson for the day.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, in real life.
Yeah,
real life.
We did 2 days, 2 days in a row. Both times caught a chipmunk. Mm-hmm. The first day, we have this nickname for chipmunks. We call them all Chippy.
Yeah, they all have the same name, except for our son Finn, who decided that they are now being named Chippy, Chippy Chip Chip, Chippity Chip Chip Chip, Chippy Chip Chippy Chip.
He was like next. He's like
all variations.
We were calling this one Chippy, and he's like, this one is Chippy Chip, and if the next one will be Chippy Chip Chip. We're like, yes, this is awesome.
And Alyssa says that she used those traps for mice in New York City, and they were very successful.
Yeah. And guess what? I'm going to bring the live trap back here because in this studio, which is a fallout shelter, I saw a tiny baby mouse. Tiny baby mouse. Tiny. We still have an enclosure at home.
We are not keeping the baby mouse. The
last time we tried to keep a baby mouse, it ended in disaster where the baby mouse was poisoned probably or had something wrong, and it was a wild baby mouse. We spent all this time constructing a cage with Seth, my brother-in-law, and then it died. It was very sad. But we have caught baby mice and kept them as pets, and that was fine, and it was fun. And they didn't know any different, and they lived longer than they would in the wild. Because all animals live longer in captivity unless they're like a specific species that doesn't do well in captivity. Yes.
Jamie Godown says, I had a rescued chipmunk that her cat had found. After they got better, it started to freak out in the cage, let him go, and that's how I got my first rat.
Yay.
Yeah.
Rats are great pets.
They are great pets. Yeah. We've had rats for a number of years now, and now our last two rats... Well, as you said, one passed away, and then the other one is living out the rest of their days out here in the country. So
eating whatever they want, you know, all the sugary snack, everything that they say you shouldn't feed them. I'm like, whatever. She's got breast cancer. Like 50% of all female rats develop it unless you get them neutered within the first 3 months. So there's nothing
we learned. We didn't know that before.
So that there's literally nothing we can do. So just just make you comfortable. But her sister that she lived her entire life with is now dead, which is, super sad. Now she's all alone. But it's always the one you like the most that dies first. That's my experience.
We loved all our pets.
Yeah,
but Chad had a
some
special
pets,
relationship.
Some pets you
with
love more than others.
But it's not like children. We love all our children. But
some people say it's okay to have a favorite child. I don't have a favorite child, but some people say that's fine.
Well, I don't know. I'm an only child, so either you love me or you don't.
Yeah.
There's no competition. Well, anyway.
Come here, only child. It's okay.
That's right. Tell me what it's like to have brothers and sisters.
Oh, it's terrible. It's awful. They're your best friends or your worst enemies, and they're always there.
They're always there.
Yep.
Hey, so what else do we want to tell people about this week? It's been a good week. Not only did we protest today, but we've been performing. We've continued to perform. We had a really interesting performance on Friday with 3 Billy Goats Gruff that went a little.
Let me tell you what behind the scenes. So this Friday, for the first time ever, I thought I got hacked because a bunch of our friends, puppeteer friends, got hacked on Facebook. Started sending out these messages. Peter Lewis, by the way, also got hacked. Sorry, Peter. That you get a little message from them, and it's this like viral video or something. Don't click on it. No matter if somebody sends you a video with no context and it seems fishy, they got hacked. So I was trying to log in on the other computer, on Z's computer. It wasn't going through. I was like, oh my God, none of the passwords are working. Oh my goodness, I got hacked too. So I had to use my phone and reset the password. When I did that, because Restream, which we use to split our video feed into two, so we're simulcasting right now on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time, right? Restream does that, but it's finicky. So when I went into Restream and said like, okay, here's my new password and such, I didn't like that or something. And so the broadcast I was putting out on YouTube was perfect on Friday, and the one that went on Facebook Live was like every 5 seconds you get a little, it was like 1 minute behind. It was lag. Everything about it was terrible. So I was getting people's live comments, just like right now we're getting your live comments on our screen. And people were just like, oh my God, it's freezing. Is it freezing for you? Yes. Everybody's like, it's freezing, it's freezing, it's freezing. So I was like, okay, we restarted the feed twice. Same issue. So I said, everybody abandon ship, go to YouTube, watch it there. They did. And then I figured it out afterwards. But when this happens, I'm alone in the studio.
I know. I used to be here because when it was in our apartment, I was always there for Fridays at 11 a.m. But now I'm not here Friday mornings because I'm with the kids, helping them with their schoolwork and just like having my time with the kids. Yeah. So. But
there wouldn't be anything you could do. So.
No, I would have just been moral support. Like, good job, honey. It's going to be okay. And then chatting with everybody like, we don't know what's going on, but we're so happy you're here.
Yeah, that would have been nice to have somebody else. Because I was trying to figure out what to do and also telling people, go to our YouTube channel. So I'll get through it. But like, if you watch that video of me performing, which somebody said it was the highlight of their week, and thank you very much, and it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. I was freaking out inside because it's like, just get through it. Just get through it. There's nothing I can do. The show must go on. It's good on YouTube, and that's going to be the backup. So as soon as this live stream nightmare is over, then you'll just have this copy that's good forever. But you can't take all that energy and perform also at the same day. It's like, it's like you want to be calm and serene and,
Yes, that was crazy.
That happened.
What else did we do? We had a meeting with the Springville Center for the Arts, which is our host for the summer here. They are hosting us in their space, and we are going to start some things with them this week. One of the things is going to be interviewing some of the people in the village of Springville with Mystery Max. Mystery Max is one of our puppets that we love so much. He has his own show, his own detective agency in the show, so we thought what better way to learn more about the Springville and all the people who are in it than having our personal PI, Mystery Max, go on an adventure once a week at least and interview different people who are around and get to know the people in our neighborhood. So this week we're going to be going to the library and interviewing Jennifer, who runs the library there. They're going to be very short, 1 to 2 minutes, but just to find out about, these awesome people who helped to make Springville such a special place to be.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
And I was saying, like, like if you're moving into a new town, you should do this. You should just do it. Start up a video series and go interview people in your neighborhood like it's some like kind of like official thing, because it's the best way to just like introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a shared memory with them. Every time you see them, you can be like, "Hey, remember that?"
We're giving them free advertising. So.
Yeah. You're giving them a platform,
Yeah. So we're gonna do a lot. Springville is a really interesting place. There's a lot of like really cool, like neat Springville only things, and then there's also things that like a lot of people can relate to, like the library. So we're excited to start that this week with our very first interview, and hoping that it's gonna go well and that we get to do even more as our summer continues.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that Seth, who's the director, I believe, of the Center for the Arts,
He is.
Said that his goal for the summer was to turn Springville into Puppet Town.
Yay!
Yeah! Puppet Town!
Watch out, Springville. You didn't know it, but we're here. And, well, actually, we were in the paper. Did you guys know that?
We're kind of a big deal.
No, I wouldn't say that, but we did get on the front page of the Springville Journal. We did. So, hometown boy does good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hometown boy.
And I'm from Western New York. I'm just from a different town.
You're from around here.
A few towns over.
You're from a town just like this.
A few towns over.
Yeah, Western New York, right? So there's so many things that we're developing with them to take us to Puppet Town. So we are developing new shows. We're kind of pulling back. We're kind of pulling back from performing all the time, which was happening naturally anyway for the summer, because there's so many more activities for people to do safely outside now that Western New York, especially, and soon New York City. Western New York is on to phase 3. I believe.
Yeah, I think we're in phase 3 now.
Out of 4, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And in terms of the quarantine and the coronavirus that we're heading through, New York City's on phase 2, which is incredible. Schools and libraries and theaters are phase 4. So the performing arts is phase 4. We're going to keep streaming until I don't know when, but we're all hoping, looking at the fall, hoping that phase 4 will mean more work and kids going back to school and stuff like that, but you just don't know. Like, who knows? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And if they say they know, they're lying. So,
or just optimism.
Or optimistic.
Yeah.
Or pessimistic. We really just don't know. It could go either way at this point. But we're just going to keep an eye on things and see. And of course, we want to be able to go back to our home in New York City because that's where we live. And we hope that might be possible for us in the fall. But we'll just see how it plays out.
We'll see. We're having a great old time, not being in our hot as hell New York City apartment right now, because it was getting hot. We had like an 80-degree day, and I had to record something, and I was just like, oh, I cannot record with an air conditioner 10 feet away, because it's just going to sound like all the time. So Jenny Han, who did her last workshop today, was saying yes,
it's hot.
Stopping the air conditioner to record like a 15-minute workshop was hell. Just that it's like incredibly hot and humid, like it gets in the city. Something about the concrete like radiating heat or something like that.
It just gets really warm there, and that was one of the reasons that we had a whole list of reasons why it was a good idea for us to get out of the city for the summer. And so that was one of them, because usually we are just not in the apartment very much during the summer. And if you are in the apartment, it's okay to have the air conditioner going, because it's not like you're performing in there or anything. Why would you be performing in your apartment?
No, you're just keeping the pets alive. Just keeping that AC running.
Right. So, what are we doing? What is work doing?
100 workshops.
100 workshops.
It's happening this week on Thursday. We hit our 100th workshop. And then guess what?
Well, I just want to say it again. We've been doing a workshop every single day since March 17th. Every single day.
That's amazing.
So, yes, 100 unique, special puppet DIY workshops. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm really so proud of us for doing that. Not to be like toot toot, but it's
you get to toot a little bit.
Toot, tiny toot toot toot. But it's exciting to be able to look back and know that we had an idea right when this first started to to try and do something every single day, and we're maintaining that idea, but now it's evolving. So can you speak to a little bit to how we're evolving that?
So we had a big team meeting, and it was super important because I had this feeling of like, oh, well, September, we'll go home, we'll just start performing again like normal, social distance, masks or something. And the team was like, no. Performing outdoors for single families only, maybe. And that's where we're at. I'm like, okay, all right, so good. We're having a lot of discussion about it. And the other thing was that everybody kind of wanted to take July off. We've been working at this thing, like, it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, creativity, especially in the face of all this stress, especially financial stress, to come up with like a creative and fun and simple idea that translates into these DIY workshop videos. So everyone was kind of feeling like, okay, 100 is a good number. It's solid. It's great. Let's pause that. We could pick it up later. But like some people are leaving the city, going places. Some people are just like, I'm going to be in this hot box, like this tiny New York City hot apartment. I just can't. So everybody's feeling like a lot of different things about it. So we're putting that on pause. But we have a plan for like to continue our live content, that everyone has appreciated thus far, and we enjoy making too.
So what's the plan?
So the first thing we're gonna do, because we need to replace 7 days a week that we've been streaming live every single day, right? So we need content to fill that.
We still want to be able to connect with you guys, every day in some capacity.
When I say content to fill that, I don't mean like, oh man, we need something every day no matter what it is. No, it's like, it's just like in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, if people have come to expect a certain thing and we've enjoyed doing it too, then like, what do we want to do?
Right. We don't want to just pull the plug on everything.
Yeah.
And it's not that we want to stop. We just want to evolve. So how are we evolving? What are we doing?
So first thing we're doing, the simplest thing is we are remastering some of the workshops. So we learned as we went. And our setup now, it looks great. This is where we want to be. It's got good lighting, it's like it's got the good cameras and everything, good audio. So we're going to remaster a bunch of the earlier workshops where maybe the internet connection was fuzzy.
Or my son came in and helped the workshop. Although adorable, it's for longevity, of the viewing, like shelf life or whatever. Yeah. We want to have a clean copy of that.
And maybe we could take that like 50-minute workshop where we like paint for the first 30 and talk about how the quarantine is eating our brains, on the inside.
Was that
and just like shorten that down to like 15. And just like 15-minute workshop, and that's better for the long term.
Yes. But I think for what we were doing, I'm so proud of us. I just want to say it again. I think that our team really did some really amazing stuff, and it's been a wonderful outlet to have to think of something creative, because it had nothing to do with the pandemic whatsoever, and especially during the months of April and May, that was really like a happy moment when I was doing these workshops. It was like the one thing I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about anything else in that moment. I wasn't thinking about what kind of a parent I was being or not being, or, whether we were going to be able to get our online grocery delivery slot that day, or that there was, sirens happening outside. Like none of that stuff was in my brain. It was just all like, oh, am I communicating how to make this beautiful puppet? I hope so. Oh, how about I show it a little bit better in my video? Is the lighting good? Oh, can you hear me? Oh, look, you chatted a question. That's so sweet. So, it's just been a really nice release for us too. But we're going to continue to do some new workshops as the inspiration hits us. Because I know last night I was watching the fireflies come out with our kids, because it's firefly season up here now. And It's just so pretty, and it makes you want to make a firefly puppet. So,
So why not, right? I think we have actually, if you're watching this, so we've kind of like written out
the clipboard of fun.
A schedule of like what each week will be, but because we're kind of coming into a transition period, we're kind of figuring it out as we go. Like we will release a schedule, but at the same time, there are things that we're gonna have to figure out. We're gonna have Z building sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So that means like if there's a puppet that was in need of some repairs, I'm just going to do those repairs live, and you can watch me and ask me questions about puppetry or puppet building while I'm doing that. And then also I hope to start building some new puppets, and you can build along and watch me do that too.
Yeah, and that's always fascinating to watch somebody just like live stream poking something. Like
Well,
over
that's
and
how
over
I
again.
build, but yeah.
Yeah, we're still doing Friday live shows at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's not going anywhere. We're just going to keep going with that because I feel like at this point it's a public service, for all the parents out there who need a break from their kids, or for all the kids who need something awesome to watch. And we're doing shows that we haven't done before, like we're doing a Christmas in July special with a gingerbread man, which is like a Christmas themed gingerbread man. We're also developing new shows, like I said, so we're going to be maybe workshopping some of those things, like some of those new shows and new show ideas, because why not, right? I feel like there's enough puppet building out there in the world. Let's see like some puppets in progress, right? And maybe some of our very smart, very well-versed friends can chime in and be like, maybe you should just do this, or maybe you should just lose that, or have you thought about this? I love those kind of like questions because you need an audience to figure it out. Our amazing friend and team member, Christina Rodriguez, has been doing this great video series called People of Power, where she does toy theater style, a little bit about usually people of color, but like puppetified, and a little bit about their lives. She just released this amazing one about the first Black woman in space, Mae Jemison, and she did one on the very famous Mexican lady painter, Frida Kahlo. Yeah, I was like, come on, just spit it out. Yep, there it is. Her series is awesome, and we want more eyeballs on it. And we've asked her permission because she broadcasts them on her Facebook page called Shakespeare's, which is her company. She does Shakespeare for kids with puppets. It's awesome. We've asked her, hey, can we like rebroadcast those once a week? And she said yes. So we're definitely going to be putting those out. In terms of protest puppets,
That's going to start up this week, and we are in the final throes of scheduling some things, but I think we're looking at Tuesday and Wednesday evenings this week we're going to start, and so be on the lookout for that.
So can you tell us a little bit about it? Because we kept it pretty close to the chest.
Oh, okay. So what we did is we reached out to people within our puppetry community, both puppeteers of color and puppeteers who are very involved in protesting with puppets, and asked them if they could lead some workshops of building online, like live streaming, like we already are doing. And we would broadcast them on our channel and show people how to make different things to bring to these protests. And that might be a puppet, like what we maybe are more traditionally thinking of as a puppet, or maybe it's like a large three-dimensional fist, or maybe it's the power of the repetition of an image and like why that works and why it's important. So we have a bunch of different people who are going to be a part of this, because the Black Lives Matters protests aren't going away. This discussion needs to continue going on, and also with the election coming up in November, there will be a lot of more opportunities to make sure that our voice is heard, and it's really important election, so make sure you're registered to vote if you're not registered. And we want to make sure that we are giving this platform to people who could really share some of their knowledge and expertise, and also share some stories with us too about their experiences. And if you know anybody who might be a good fit for this series, have them contact me, z@wondersparkpuppets.com.
Yeah. And the reason that we haven't been more vocal and showing and like getting people pumped and ready for this series is because everyone is so busy, especially right now, that getting somebody who's an expert on stapling cardboard together into an amazing shape for a protest is already doing that, or already super busy with something, or quarantining, or doing new projects. So we have a long list of amazing names, great puppeteers of color, dudes that are personal friends of ours, that we want to be like, yo, check out this list. This list is amazing. But if one of them were to fall through, or they're just be like, yo, I'm sorry, I want to, but I just can't because of X, Y, and Z, we don't want to disappoint anybody. So I think this is going to be one of those where as soon as we get like a schedule going, we'll be sharing it and broadcasting those amazing puppeteers out to you guys. I'm super excited because I want to learn, because we've been going out to we've been going out to our local Black Lives Matter protest 2 weeks in a row now, and it's like, man, we get so many great honks, right? But we need puppetry is a visual medium, and having like a big image is way more powerful than having a little sign, with just like one Sharpie that's not been like done up very much. Like, it's hard to read, right? But if you see an image, you don't need to read; it's just there. So I love that idea, and I want to try it out. And so more on that very exciting thing as it develops. But let's talk about today, because last week there's a huge turnout for Black Lives Matter protest in Middle Springville. Let me tell you, Springville is a very small village in Western New York. My graduating class was, I think, 500 people.
That's a lot of people.
No, I take it back. It was 100 people.
Okay.
I was like,
what?
No, it's 100 people total.
I say that's a lot of people because my graduating class from a similar town was 92 people, and that was one of the biggest graduating classes they had ever had.
I think it's 500 people in their high school total.
Okay.
So yeah, like 100 people in our class
that
graduating.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. So we went out, and there was a big turnout. We filled up this like little square. It was hot, but not too hot. It was a beautiful day. We had a lot of signs, way more honks than angry, fists. Or
thumbs down. Sometimes people just pass and do a thumbs down.
Yeah, but there's nobody in the village itself. It's empty. A lot of shops on Main Street due to the virus, or just due to like rural America. It's a problem. Empty. There's nobody walking around, so we're basically holding up signs
to cars
for cars who are like passing
and
through
motorcycles.
Yeah. So today, because of reasons, not too many people showed up. Like, we had less people, right? Well, Juneteenth was yesterday. Today is Father's Day, and everybody's like, I don't know, taking their dad out to brunch or something. So we had like less turnouts. So thanks.
Happy Father's Day, Chad.
Yeah, I spent Father's Day
protesting,
looking for fossils with my boys in the woods, which we found some.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're really cool, in a creek, and then protesting. Although, like, once they got there, and the older one like held up a sign for a little bit, then it was just really hot outside.
Yeah.
So he just like sat down under a tree and just sat there, and the other one played with bubbles. Whatever, they're around.
Yeah, they're seeing us do it, which is part of it.
I'm hoping that they'll have some kind of memory, because I have a memory of going with my dad to a total stranger's house with like 50 other people and moving them out, like packing up all their stuff, moving it out into trucks, getting the whole move done in like a couple hours, and understanding why that was a big deal, and like knowing that is like, you got to help people. And look, we're helping people. You were helping people, carrying out like a little bowl or something. So because we were so small, we still get a lot of honks, a lot of great people, showing their support. But we also had a couple people actually talk to us this time, like people who did not understand or like were against what we were saying. I think it was because our numbers were smaller that they actually like stopped for a sec and talk to us.
Well, they didn't really talk to us. They talked at us.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm always willing to have a conversation. In fact, I love having conversations with people because that's how you get to hear like how they really feel about things and like why they feel that way. But we never got to the why. We just got to the how they feel because they would drive up, yell at us through the window, and then drive off, which I'm used to because when I wear this shirt in New York City, that happens to me. Not all the time. Or people will just come up to me and say something. But again, and I've said this before, when I wear this shirt, like it's inviting a conversation to happen, good or bad. I'm inviting interaction. And I'm always hopeful that it'll be positive interaction because, I believe in the message. And I have believed in the message for a very long time. And I'm so happy that more people are starting to understand it. And the woman who is coordinating a lot of the stuff out here. She has really just come to understand it in the last couple months, and that's really huge for her. So she's having her awakening, right? She's getting woke, as we say. I always feel like silly saying that like that, but when I had my moment a few years ago, it really was like a like brain exploded moment, and then I was feeling like I can't just sit here. I got to do stuff. I got to tell people how I feel all the time.
And I feel like we can claim that as part of being white, in this country is like part of our culture is like you got to get woke because it's not in our face all the time or to let's say like in general statements. So yeah, like that's like woke moment is part of white culture. I feel like I read this interesting article about like how you gotta start claiming things as white because you gotta think of yourself as white so that you can, I don't know, own up to privilege and all kinds of interesting things. I watched this amazing documentary on PBS. It was like 8 hours about the Reconstruction era, like after the Civil War ended. Like how do we get into this mess? And President Johnson and all the things that I feel like we had kind of glossed over in high school or middle school. Whenever we learned about the Reconstruction, it was like President Johnson's Reconstruction failed, and then the KKK, and then Jim Crow, and like there's so much more stuff that happened. Like slaves were becoming members of Congress, and it's so amazing and exciting. And then to take all that momentum and hope, and for like a few key decisions to just spike it back down to back to the way things were, which is like, it's heartbreaking. So I would encourage everybody to go watch that documentary. I think it's just called
Reconstruction Era?
Something like that. So I don't know I forget the actual
So it was
name.
on PBS, and it was yesterday that you were watching.
It was yesterday. It was their big fundraiser.
So it was on PBS yesterday, Juneteenth.
I'm gonna look it up.
Chad's gonna look it up, and he's gonna tell you what it was because it looked really cool. I was in the midst of staking my garden, and Alyssa says it's called 13th.
Nope.
Something else.
But I bet there's a lot of similar stuff. So. Why am I telling this? Because how are we supposed to teach our kids if we don't know ourselves, right? How are we supposed to know what to say to them if we are totally ignorant, right? So the more that you learn outside of like what's happening to you personally, like about people, about history, and like that gives you more, not like ammunition, but more like stuff to chew on, and like, the more of an expert that you become in something, like the easier that you can relate it to somebody.
Absolutely. And you can have thoughtful conversation, which is what I'm always hopeful for. I do think that doing a Black Lives Matter protest out here in a small village is a different vibe. But it's also, in some ways, to me, like it's just as meaningful, but in a different way than in the city. Because in the city, we would be surrounded by hundreds of people, and this feeling of collective, voice that happens, and chanting and such. Whereas out here, we're basically saying, there are people who feel this way, and we feel this way so strongly that we are going to stand here and hold a sign because there's no chanting, there's no yelling. We just stand and hold a sign and wave friendly like, because rural America. And you know, a lot of people beep because they're like, yeah, awesome, we agree, beep, beep, beep. And then there are people who are like, how dare you interrupt my day with your opinion? Because not only do I not agree with your opinion, but I live out here, so I don't have to deal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, one of the guys, one of the people who drove up to us, you know, with their foot on the brake, you know, like slowly moving away, just enough to yell something at us, and then go, because their intention is not to stay and talk. I would have loved to talk more because it was really interesting. But one of the things that they said was,
On the guy on the motorcycle?
Yeah.
Oh, that single dad raised 2 kids on only $300 a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's Father's Day.
And he also said, are you from here?
Oh, that's right. Well, that's how the conversation started. He came right up to Chad and said, are you from here? Very demanding, like. Yeah,
and like, so his priority was, and he told this to Z, because you admitted you weren't from here.
I did not say that. No.
Okay, then never mind. Excuse me. But he did say, if you weren't from here, you're not welcome here. I told him I was born here, and he's like, well, good, because
if you weren't from here, then you wouldn't be welcome here.
Yeah, and he started talking about our signs and saying how they're not welcome, and that our signs were wrong. But then he started to give this personal information about, like, I'm a dad, it's Father's Day, and I have 2 kids.
Yes.
And I live on $350 a week, and my life matters too.
Right.
Which completely misses the point of what the sign Black Lives Matter is. Black Lives Matter means stop murdering black people, black men and women.
Black and brown.
Stop police or people stop thinking of our fellow Americans as the other or different just because of the color of their skin.
Or dangerous.
That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you matter less, people who drive up and shout at us. It doesn't mean that all lives don't matter. All lives are sacred. Yeah, that's not what the sign says. The sign says stop murdering black and brown Americans. And I think we can all get behind that. But for whatever reason, for a lot of reasons, a few people today did not understand that and decided to tell us. But it was fascinating because the more that they shared, the more I was like, I want to talk to you.
But
it was so surprising.
What's so nice is that when I have gone to these protests in New York City, I don't ever get to engage with people who don't agree.
Oh.
And that kind of engagement only ever gets to happen online, which is also very difficult because people can hide or say things that they normally wouldn't say.
Yeah. They're hot takes on social media.
So I appreciate anybody who feels strongly enough that they want to come up and talk. But, I would much rather have a conversation than you just yelling. Yeah. But whatever. I also realize that we are interrupting, what could have just been a trip to the store. Like you're driving to the store, and now we are interrupting you with a thought about you thought you were just going out on about your day, and you weren't going to have to think about this phrase anymore today, Black Lives Matter. And we're saying, oh, actually, I'm asking you to think about it again. Black Lives Matter. So then you have to think to yourself again, how do I feel about that? And for a lot of people, they feel good about it, which is great. And then there is definitely a subsect of people here in Springville, not necessarily subsect, but a selection of people.
Let's say anywhere, back in our own city.
Anywhere. Who disagree. Oh, because I've definitely gotten yelled at out of car windows in New York City wearing this shirt. And they feel strongly enough upset that we have disrupted their day, that then they have to come over and tell us how wrong we are, that their opinion is right and how wrong we are. And I just always, I wish, and at some point when we're doing this, there will be conversations that we'll get to have, and that will be nice. But, it is a thing. Alyssa says, if Black lives don't matter, then not all lives matter. That's right. All lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. And that's that is the thing. So I think that should be a sign we have next week, because that was a few of the sentiments that were shouted at us a couple times out of their cars.
I feel like part of it's like it is ridiculously unfair that I look forward to those conversations with people because I don't have to have them every single day. I don't have people shouting things or having to live in fear, or having to live in fear of my kids, anything happening to them because of the color of their skin. We are the type of Jewish family that can blend in. Not all Jews can, but it's so I look forward to talking to somebody, because the one way you can really change somebody's mind is by calmly talking to them, right? So every time that they would try to leave, especially the guy on the motorbike, it's I kept on cribbing and I have more to say to you. But I just feel like I was also having that moment today of just so many people are just sick of having to deal with this stuff every single day. And after the protest, I can just put my sign away, and then I'm no longer a threat to people who disagree with that very basic statement, which is crazy. I'm thinking a lot about my friend Swanee. What's up, Swanee, in South Africa, where it's very interesting because there's still a lot of racism and racial violence, but the color of the skin is flipped to where it's a white minority who gets accused of racism, but then it's a black majority who commits racist acts. I'm not saying that it's 100% either way, but he's it's very interesting talking to somebody from South Africa about how it's a little it's a lot the same, but it's the white minority is often accused and then often the victim of racial crimes or racial hatred. And it's whoa, I had fascinating conversations talking to him about that.
We had, I think maybe I already shared this once before, but at Fredonia, my freshman year, we had Sister Soja come and speak, and I was really intrigued because I was raised in a highly conservative talk radio household. I would listen to Rush Limbaugh every day, not by choice, but just because that's how I was raised, that is the type of political mindset that my house was. And so it was very right-wing conservative. And I had remembered specifically Rush Limbaugh being very anti-Sister Soja because of... I think she was very active in the activist scene, probably in the late 90s and stuff. And this was back in 1997, 98, that she would have visited the school. So I went and I listened in on most of the lecture that she was giving before I had to go to class. And one of the things that she said will always stick with me. She's because Fredonia, the state school that we went to, is very white. There were people of color who were students there, but it was a minority.
Very, very small amount.
Yes.
I think I dated 1/10 of the entire black population on campus.
Well, it was a very small group. So she said she was speaking to all the white kids, for the most part in the room, and she said to us, "So." All right, now I want you to know that when you think about Africa, I was just in South Africa. That is a country in the continent of Africa. It has cities that look like cities in the United States with skyscrapers. It's not all just elephants and giraffes. And honestly, I was oh my God, it's not all just elephants and giraffes. No, seriously, I was dumb. And I was the exact person that needed to hear her speak that day because of the way that I had been raised, and because I was starting to question I don't think that stuff's right. No, I'm pretty sure that it's not right, like the way that I had been taught to think. And so, oh, my mom's watching. Well, this is a great part for you to listen in on, Mom. Happy Father's Day. Awkward. But anyway, so I heard Sister So just say all that stuff, and I was just like, mind blown. You know, like they have cities. You know, it's not just like kids who don't have enough to eat. Like that's what I knew of Africa. Kids who don't have enough to eat, and they have really cool animals.
Yeah.
And
that's all you ever see or hear about, like on TV or books in the 80s, let's say.
And I'd like to say that was the very beginning of like this very, very long journey of mine to really understand not only just like how had to reset the way I had been taught and thinking about the world, but then also how I had an experience a few years ago where I really very much understood that my being Jewish, there is this level of empathy that comes up for me in terms of like the Black experience and the Jewish experience, and while they are not the same, it's very much, I feel like I have stuff that we could talk about, you know, like we were slaves, you guys were slaves, like there's anti-Semitism, there is an anti-Black sentiment and racism, you know, and if anything, if you are Jewish, you need to be out here lifting up and like, you know, it's awesome.
And helping out. And, you know, it's like when there were Jewish hate crimes in 2018, 2019, you know, before. So the Muslim community really came out. And the Jewish community at this rally that I was at, they were like, we welcome all of our Muslim brothers and sisters. Now, we can't not show up for them. You know, like we need to show up to their events too. Like you can't just show up when your group gets attacked. You know, when you are the victim, you got to show up for everybody because they're showing up for you.
Yeah. One great organization that I highly recommend looking into is Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. They do some really amazing work in New York City, but then also they're just a wonderful platform to raise up voices and different things that we should all be concerned about. But especially, I feel like the Jewish community, we could be doing so much to amplify these types of concerns. So anyway, that's a lot of political stuff, but you know, it's a political time.
It's affecting us and like as artists, right? It's like what's coming in, like what your daily life is like art kind of imitates life in a way, right?
Yeah.
So like the shows that we are developing and the messages that we will be putting into those shows, so carefully crafted, will have those themes. Like one of my favorite shows of all time is Tiger Tales by Chinese Theater Works. If you haven't seen it, it's an overhead projector show. It's very silly, and it uses these scanned-in overhead projector Chinese shadow puppets, but it's in a very modern type of style, like an overhead projector. But it's about these bunnies like outwitting the evil tiger who eats everybody up. But it's also about like how you like the oppressive government forces and other things like the terrible things in your life and what you need to do to survive.
Yeah.
And it uses, like all Aesop's fables, you can use animals as a metaphor, right, for anybody throughout history, and they do it so well. Where like this one bunny decides to become the prime minister for this tiger who's proclaimed himself king, and they only do that to survive. And through their methods, they eventually lead the tiger on a road to destruction, where the tiger is eventually destroyed and they become the new king. I'm not saying that that's what needs to happen right now or anything, or that we need to do that to our government or tear it all down, defund the police, etc. But it's like, that is something that I aspire to when we make a show, because we make shows for kids, and you can't be super overt with your political messaging or people or only certain people, like your marketability goes down. Like only certain people will come to your show if it's the political show for kids, because not everybody agrees necessarily with your exact politics. But if you sneak them in there, if they're general or universal enough, I think that's where we're aiming.
And here's the thing that I was talking with one of the fellow protesters about earlier today is that pretty much all these people who, and there wasn't a lot of people who were against us being out there protesting, but, the ones who were more vocal about it, they will, if you said to them, are you a racist? They're all going to say, my guess is they're all going to say, no, I'm not racist. But here's the thing, is that there are racial tendencies, like racist tendencies that people have that they don't even realize they have. And that is the thing that needs to be addressed, because it's like ingrained. This feeling of a large black man induces fear. Just the presence of a large black man. Like, why? What happens between a kid and an adult that suddenly we are just fearful of somebody because of the color of their skin? So it's these kinds of things that or that we would just assume, like one of the people who came up and were talking at us for a moment and then left, what he was saying was basically coming from a place of understanding that if you are black, then you must be low income, right? Because you can't or make bad choices with your life or your money or something,
or some kind of like misguided idea about, and I'm doing air quotes, black on black crime.
Right. There was a lot going on with his conversation, but
that person in the SUV, that person was racist. Maybe they wouldn't say that,
but they would never say they were racist. In fact, that is exactly the type of person that would say, "Well, I have black friends." Yes. I have black friends, so I'm not racist. However, I'm going to point out all of these stereotypes and cliches that are unfounded. It's just not true. And then, and the thing is that there's a reason why this machine keeps, it feels like a machine. That we can't seem to get out of this, and allow for actual equality and to acknowledge the lack of equity.
Well, right? I'll tell you, from watching this documentary, and I will tell you the name of the documentary, actually.
Oh, what was it?
It's called Reconstruction, America After the Civil War. And Henry Louis Gates Jr. is the host. He's the guy who put it all together. It's amazing. It's a two-parter. Highly recommend it. And one of the things that the Republicans, I'm talking old school Republicans, Party of Lincoln Republicans, did was they figured out that the racism and the idea that a certain race was better than another, that idea wasn't stamped out after the Civil War. It was still very much alive. And the only way to get their very progressive agenda through to protect Americans of color was to write it into the Constitution. And they're like, if we can't change people's minds, we're going to legislate it, and we're going to change the law of the land. And I feel like the same is true now because of all the terrible propaganda in people's minds and the people that yelled at us today. Okay, great. I don't want to change your mind. Maybe I can't change your mind. But if we change the laws now to protect our fellow Americans, if we change how we think about policing, if we change a lot of different things, then then maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the route we need to take. Is it's there's a reason that hate crimes are something gesundheit that people prosecute, and that it's a really big deal. It should be as much of a big deal. When the police go too far.
Yes.
When law enforcement in any form goes too far, because they don't teach you that stuff at the academy. I'm here to tell you, I've been to the academy, I've been to those classes. They tell you not to do that stuff because you're going to get everybody else in trouble, and you're going to turn public sentiment against law enforcement. Don't do it. And then it happens, and then, we and law enforcement, everybody are just up the creek without a paddle.
Anyway. We will continue. This is a journey. It's a journey for us, and it's a journey for a lot of people right now. And we will continue to support the community, the Puppeteers of Color community, and just our fellow friends and neighbors and friends we haven't met yet. And make sure you're registered to vote.
Yeah. If you out there, one of the things, and we're wrapping it up here. One of the things that has been passed around a lot lately is how do we support other puppeteers of color, right? And there are a lot of amazing, awesome initiatives coming out. If you don't know, Puppet Show Place Theater has just announced this Black Empowerment Grants.
Well, it's due June 27th. So you
gotta
get on
apply
that.
right now if you
so
haven't.
If you know anybody who is an artist of color who's interested in learning more about puppetry, there's some amazing opportunities that are available right now through Puppet Show Place Theater out of Boston. And then there will also, I think, be some other opportunities coming down the pike that I can't say for sure yet, but things are looking very promising in that area in a lot of different fronts. And also, I'm sorry, I must be allergic to something. Maybe it's the baby mouse down here.
There was a baby mouse, a tiny little mouse with a big head.
But, we're just going to continue to do what we can and do our shows every Friday, bring love and light to everybody that we can, and make a show. I don't know what we're going to make yet, but we're going to make a show.
I know what we're going to make.
Well, Chad has his show, but I think I have my show. This is also what happens, too, is we are two artists, but we are also different artists. And sometimes we make work together, and sometimes we make work separately. And I think that I will be making the puppets for Chad's show, but then I'm also going to be making puppets for my own show, and I have to figure out what that show is. What's the show, people?
Sometimes we're like Outkast, where we do our music on the same CD, and then sometimes we release two different CDs where we both have that's where co-artistic direction means. Sometimes you release separately, sometimes you are like, yes, absolutely. What I wanted to say was, if you out there know anybody of color, let's say, or anybody really, who's into theater, who is like, yes, theater's for me, I'm going to be an actor, or in whatever fashion, we can give you the tool, these amazing tools for you to also know puppetry.
Well,
right?
if you want to work in this field, you want to have, like you said, a tool, but like a toolkit,
yes.
right? So you learn about all the different aspects of theater, and one of those aspects has not been as brightly shining, and that is puppetry. And we want you guys to know more about puppetry. So if you are interested, let us know, and then we can help you out.
So I will be releasing like a video series soon. Don't know on what day, about like basic hand puppet techniques that I've learned from like amazing puppetry mentors that I would have loved to have all that information 10 years ago when it first started. But it was even like years ago. We were like, hey, there aren't that many black puppeteers. Let's make some, right? Like, let's go into...
You can't just make them.
But, no, you can't force somebody. No, but I'm saying, like, if you encourage somebody who is an actor anyway, or is getting into theater anyway, and say, you know what? Check out this niche thing over here that has so many great possibilities, that is so amazing and incredible, and it can teach you how to be a better designer, better director, better builder, just by giving you the tools to be like, I'm not just myself and my body on stage. No, I'm manipulating something and thinking about every single aspect of its movement and how that communicates an idea to the audience. Right, and that's what puppetry is great about.
And we have a comment here from Kristen Doyle, who asks, can you make very sparkly puppets for children who are on the autism spectrum disorder? So actually, Kristen, I do a lot of work with teachers, counselors, and therapists, teaching them how to use puppets in their work with kids who have been diagnosed with ASD. And I can think a little bit more about making puppets specifically for kids on the spectrum who would want to perform those, like what kind of puppets that would look like. But if you have ideas and you want to reach out and keep that conversation going, send me an email, because I would love to hear more from you about that. So z@wondersparkpuppets.org.
Or just send us a message on Facebook, like through Wonderspark Puppets, and we will contact you. often, yes.
I just want to say, Alyssa, I agree completely with your comment above. And then my mom's friend Janie is watching. We share the same birthday twins. I see you. She says, thank you. This has been great. I just stumbled across it and I'm so glad, even though I came in late. Thank you, Janie. Janie is a really amazing family friend, and she's just very open to lots of different people, and she's got a lot of love to share. So we love Janie so much.
Yay.
And also my friend Lisa from Fredonia is watching, and I want to say, Lisa, I owe you an email to say thank you, because Lisa made a donation, and I believe it was to my personal Venmo account, and I meant to acknowledge it, and it just got buried. And so I am telling you right now, Lisa, if you're listening, thank you so much, and I'm going to write you a very special email. Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We are the Puppet Parent Podcast.
We are. We're going to go home and make dinner for our kids now.
Yay.
We're making pierogies.
I think this new afternoon schedule works for us. Does it work for you?
Yeah, what do you guys think? We had some new viewers today, so that's fun.
What are you guys up to on a Sunday afternoon? I don't know. Probably not in church, because church is like a Sunday morning thing.
That's a morning thing. Yeah.
So we're coming at you live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously every Sunday. We're shooting for 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week we have a show at exactly the same time, so we'll either be like later or earlier. We'll let you know on Facebook. Mm-hmm. But please come on back. Head on over to puppetparentpodcast.com to check out all of our archives. This is episode 13.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Last week we interviewed an amazing woman, your friend
Lenore Koppelman from the Cheeky Chipmunk, amazing face painter from the same area we're from, Astoria, Queens, New York. So
she went from like, how do you what do face painters and body painters do in the middle of a pandemic where you can't get any near somebody or touch anybody, especially face painters? So instead, she decided to develop her art and became an amazing children's book illustrator.
She's on the path. She's on the path, and we're rooting her on, and she's doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah, so check that out. Definitely, you can listen to us on. Oh, here it is.
Where can you find us?
We're on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Radio Public, not Public Radio, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Anchor, or you can just head over to our website, puppetparentpodcast.com, and just download the MP3s. They're out there on the internet, wherever you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we hope that either you watch us live or we get to be a part of your day in some capacity and you listen in. Thank you so much. Wonder Spark Puppets keeps going every day and every week because of all of you guys, letting us know that the work that we're doing is important and it's valuable to you, and that just makes us so happy. As artists, we're just going to continue to make stuff that will hopefully bring you guys some love and some light and some joy, and that also in turn brings us those same things. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
All right, guys.